Tracy Mitrano joining us now. Tracy, thank you so much for taking time tonight to talk with us. What was your thoughts when you heard of the news that Tom Reed's Corning campaign office was vandalized today?
I was very sorry to hear about it, Zach. Vandalism is vandalism, and it's never condoned. You know, I was a 10-year-old or something like that child in Rochester during the riots then, and my father brought his guns down. I remember it because I grew up in the city. My father had a restaurant in downtown Rochester, and I know that many people have been affected, small businesses where they work so hard every day, so severely affected by these kinds of criminal activities. They are never right. They are always wrong. They need to be investigated, and they need to be fully prosecuted.
That's good. Any other kind of message that you might have, you know, to his campaign, or just in general about the situation?
Well, I have been deeply opposed to the partisanship in this campaign. And when we're in a moment like this, I hesitate then to bring up what I believe is Mr. Reed's partisanship, because I'm not trying to exacerbate a situation that we can't allow to exist on either side of the political spectrum, or in between, or from people who have no political views or are anarchists. None of those people in any of their criminal acts are part of what I believe should be the kind of conversation that Congressman Reed and I have going forward in this campaign. Of course, it would be helpful if Congressman Reed would be willing to debate me, as is the common course in a democratic election, and I continue to be shocked that he refuses to debate me. I abhor criminality. I don't care, in the name of whatever it is. It is wrong, it is criminal, it needs to be prosecuted. But I will say this. I believe that the political theater that Tom Reed does to talk about his bipartisanship is exactly that. And in fact, he has for 10 years been an extremist himself in his partisan attacks, as well as his votes. And when he plays the bipartisan card, it is just the political theater of this problem solvers that has one small addition to our congressional politics in terms of passing a procedural matter. And otherwise, no one's of influence is paying attention when they yet do this political theater of, we're going to work on a problem solving. You know, the most recent stimulus act is a great example. That was a matter between the leadership of the House, the leadership of the Senate, Secretary Mnuchin, and the President. So Tom Reed can go off with Gottheimer or anybody else and talk about how they're going to resolve it. But Zach, no one's paying attention to them. It's just theater.
Yeah. Speaking of political theater, finish up. Speaking about political theater, we're seeing, we saw Democrats last week and Republicans this week, front and center, showing off their each party. What is your take on what you're seeing this week coming out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and of course Washington for the Republican National Convention?
Well, I didn't watch all of the Democratic National Convention, and you'll pardon me if I admit that I'm not watching the Republican National Convention. But I will say this. I think that overall, from what I did watch and what I do watch and what I read, that the Democratic Party is trying to project a simple message to the people of this country. We are in a crisis, public health as well as economic. We must get beyond it, and then from there we want to be in a better place. It's sober, it's realistic, it is talking about where we are and how we can do it all within a reasonable conversation of the democratic process and legislation that makes sense on a reasonable and rational basis. What I gather from the Republican National Convention is largely a manufactured narrative of lies about, for example, democratic positions and many of which Tom Reed has used against me. So it must be part of the Republican playbook. I support the Second Amendment. I own guns myself. I came from a gun family. I am not a socialist. None of the policies that I've put forward to try to stimulate the economic development of this district have anything to do with socialism. They have to do with healthy people, educated people, infrastructure, and the environment. This is all well within the center of American politics. So I'm always concerned when I hear politicians try to fearmonger and try to gin up anxieties where they really don't even exist, except for the base whom they are playing for their anxieties. And I find that the most unfortunate, because often they're the most vulnerable people that we have here in our district.
All right. On that note, we appreciate you taking time out tonight to talk with us, and we'll be in touch, obviously. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Zach. All right. All the best.